Welcome to the Farzy Show, presented by Destination Retirement, destinationretirement.com, coming to you live at 6 a.m. from the Steven Singer Studios. Oh man. Ben definitely baffled yesterday. Harden, I thought, dazzled yesterday. Paul Millsap had the line of the day, and as far as I'm concerned, that was all that happened. Oh, the Flyers lost in overtime, but they got a point. And as far as I'm concerned, that's really all that happened yesterday, right? There was a couple of press conferences. There was a Flyers game. I think the Sixers had a practice. They had two practices, one during the day, press conference, and then they also had a little game where they just scrimmaged against, I think, some other team from Boston. But nobody knows what really happened in that game because that game shall be referred to as the game that shall not be mentioned. That's right, folks. We will not get into that Sixers game last night at all. I promise you. Oh, my God. What is that? Is that the box score? Ah! From just the first half? Ah! Who did that? Why are you putting that up? 56% to 34% from the field? What? Ah! That's horrible. If you watch what the game that shall not be mentioned, it was I had been talking about on the show how James Harden signified the end of the process. That game last night was more of a representation of the beginning of the process. And look, sometimes you're just not gonna have a good night. And I thought I picked a really easy parlay last night, and boy, was I wrong. And I think most people that were going to bet that game were pretty wrong. But I will say, sometimes you just run into a tractor trailer. And last night, that was it. Jaylen Brown was 5 for 5 from beyond the arc. I believe the Celtics had 25 threes in that game. It was ridiculous, the game that shall not be mentioned. And that's about as far as I'll go with it, because hopefully, right after that game, Doc Rivers collected all the computers, all the digital coverage of that game that they would later break down in film session or what have you, and just took a baseball bat and went full Office Space on it. Like, damn, it feels good to be a gangster. And just smashing the hell out of that computer where they don't have to review anything from the game that shall not be mentioned. And hopefully they'll just move on to bigger and better things. Because just anything that the Celtics threw up in the game that shall not be mentioned, it went in. Every single thing they threw up in that game, it went in. It was over. Starters didn't play in the fourth quarter. They were getting Bassey minutes. They were getting Paul Millsap, who had, like I said, the greatest line yesterday. They were getting him minutes. Everybody was just getting minutes. Yesterday, Charlie Brown was back in the game. Good to see him again. Like, that was just so terrible. It brought me back to the process days. And you know what? It made me grateful. It made me grateful that we're not there anymore. That this is just a clunker of clunkers that was just god-awful. So for me, all right. Thank you. Thank you for humbling us, basketball gods. Thank you. Now we'll hopefully move on with the James Harden era here in Philadelphia, and we'll be appreciative of what James Harden will bring here to Philadelphia. Thank you. That was very nice. We were getting a little cocky. We were feeling ourselves a little bit. Thank you. And now we get back to our regularly scheduled, pretty damn good basketball team as soon as humanly possible. Folks, we will run through a lot of the stuff that Ben Simmons had to say yesterday. We will go through a lot of the stuff that James Harden had to say today. No guest today. There's just too much to get to when it comes to everything. I want to make sure that you guys are well informed and you know my opinions on everything that took place yesterday. Let's start with the negative side of things, and then we'll end on the positive note. James Harden is a 76er. Oh, and he also said that, they're the best fans in the NBA are here in Philadelphia. Go figure, because I thought we were trash. According to the national media, we're horrible people. But James Harden said best fans, so I'm going to go with that. But let's start it off with Ben Simmons. Here's my overall takeaway from Ben Simmons. He was done in Philadelphia. For whatever reason, he couldn't play here anymore, and he needed a fresh start somewhere else. That's my overall takeaway from Ben Simmons. I don't know for the life of me how the hell he still is represented by Clutch Sports. For someone that is supposed to be helping Ben Simmons, for a company that's supposed to be making him look really good all the time, how they allow different things to be leaked out to the media, how they allow things from people in their own camp, such as Brian Windhorst, put things out about how Ben Simmons doesn't like Philadelphia, he doesn't like Joel Embiid, he doesn't like Doc Rivers, he didn't like what was said about him after the series against Atlanta. How all that is the stuff that was pushed out and put in the mainstream media. All that stuff that was supposed to be Ben's side of the story, all that gets said. Joel Embiid's fault, Doc Rivers' fault, the Sixers' fault, the city of Philadelphia's fault, Philadelphia fans' fault. All that is what's pushed out and talked about for months at a time. And then when Ben addresses the team and actually shows up and doesn't show up until he starts to get fined, and even when he refused teammates going to visit him in LA, and even though during this process we learned that he is ignoring text messages and calls from Doc Rivers, even though all that's going on, somehow it doesn't leak that he is going through mental health issues. There's a line that Ben Simmons said yesterday about how he was just trying to get his mind right. If that line is said even before training camp, that's right there along the lines of Lane Johnson, where we didn't know why Lane Johnson was gone. We didn't know why he was missing like a month of the season. And you know what they said? Personal reasons. Lane's got something personal going on. And whenever I hear that as a decent human being, I go, whatever it is, they got to deal with it. Like, I don't look at athletes as these superhumans anymore. Like, maybe I'm jaded in that regard, or maybe I'm just a realist because I've been fortunate enough to interview these people, get to know these people, and realize, hey, what do you know? They are just like us. Like, that whole facade is gone to me. They're just another guy. You know what I'm saying? So when I listen to athletes talk about themselves as humans, I go, oh, okay, because there's no amount of money that will make me stop being a human being. I will still have feelings, all that stuff. You know, every cliche you want to roll out about how I'm still a person, you can roll out right now. But Lane Johnson's situation was, it's personal. We're not getting into it. It's Lane Johnson. Okay, Lane Johnson comes back. Lane, I thought, did a tremendous amount of work for people that go through mental health issues when he talked about just how bad it was for him. He got into specifics. He talked about going off his medication, talking about how that balance wasn't there for him. When Brandon Brooks came back from his battle with anxiety on 2 separate occasions, came out and I think helped a lot of people by saying, I'm a professional football player. I'm an offensive line, big, tough guy, right? And I go through these struggles. And it doesn't matter what you do for a living. It doesn't matter your physical stature. It doesn't matter how physically strong you are. It's all about what's between the ears. And I mean, how many times do we hear from people that are just ridiculously rich and that person is depressed as all hell because, yes, money can't buy happiness. It can get rid of a lot of worries. But overall, if you're not right between the ears, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank account, how much money you have in your purse or your wallet or whatever it might be. Brandon Brooks came out and spoke and gave you details. Lane Johnson came out and spoke and gave you details. And ultimately, he helped a lot. They helped a lot of people, not just in the Philadelphia area, but across the country. Ben Simmons, mum is the word. Until he started losing money. And then we started to hear about not mental health, but mentally ready to play, which could mean a whole slew of things. And I pointed that out at the time that it happened. It's weird to me that even now they're mentioning anything with mental concerns, that it's not mental health, it's not mental well-being, it's mental readiness to play. So that could mean I got to wrap my head around that Joel Embiid said I was the turning point. I got to wrap my head around the fact that Daryl Morey wanted to trade me before last season. I got to wrap my head around that my head coach, who had my back for the entire season, benched me and then also said, I don't know if I can win a championship with Ben Simmons as my point guard. Like, that could be not mental health, but just anybody with a good mental approach or mindset going into a game or a work setting. I got to wrap my head around the fact that maybe these guys don't believe in me as much as I thought I did, or as much as I thought they believed in me. And then it got brought up, like I said, as soon as Ben reported to camp, as soon as he reported where he started getting fined and all that stuff, that he wasn't keeping the Sixers updated on his status and all this. And he said at one point during the press conference yesterday that it wasn't about mental health. The trade wasn't about mental health. And the trade wasn't about basketball. And the trade wasn't about what the coaches had to say or what anybody had to say about him. Yet, if that was the case, and if it didn't have to do with basketball, if it didn't have to do with what anybody said, then why couldn't he play here? Why couldn't he even sit on the bench here? But yet he gets traded, And, let me sit next to Andre Drummond, a guy I could have sat next to for the entire season, and I chose not to. Like, look, I know some people, and I know a lot of people that follow us in the chat, and you guys hit me up all throughout the show, which I greatly appreciate. You guys seem to be on the same side as me. Like, this doesn't pass the smell test even a little bit. But it feels like for even some people within the Philadelphia market, and mostly people outside the Philadelphia market that haven't lived, ate, drank, slept this story for the last 5 months, it seems like people that even give a shadow of doubt in the direction of Ben Simmons go, oh, how dare you not understand mental health? No. It's not about that. Like, I support anybody that's going through any mental health issue. It's just odd to me. And if you followed this story as much as the 76ers fan base has followed this story, this doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. And I know Ben doesn't owe us an explanation, detail by detail, of everything that he did, but people that have gone through the mental health struggle and did it publicly have come out to give a little bit more detail to help people that are really going through those struggles. So when I listened to him yesterday, I'm thinking, if it didn't have anything to do with mental health, and this problem existed before the season, even before last season, as he said, then how did you make it through last season? What exactly was it? And why couldn't you speak to some teammates about what you were going through? Why is it that when teammates wanted to visit you, you said no? Why is it when Doc Rivers wanted to reach out to you, you weren't there to accept that either olive branch or invitation, whatever it might have been? It just doesn't make any sense. But the bottom line is, it just wasn't going to happen here. For whatever reason, Ben did not want to be here in Philadelphia anymore. According to him, it didn't have to do with any comments or any player or anything like that. He just couldn't be here in Philadelphia. And when he was asked point blank about whether or not he felt like he needed to be in a different setting and whether or not he felt like the change of scenery was what he needed and whether or not that helped his mental status, he said, yeah, I think it has. Well, it definitely has if you're already with the team and you haven't been around the team that you have been, your entire career you spent with. So for me, it'll never add up. We will never have the answers that we want to have. And I know some people took some shots at New York media, and believe me, I would love to just, the word used yesterday was opine. I would love to opine about how terrible New York media is and they didn't ask the right questions. There's maybe one question that I would have asked yesterday that wasn't asked because they asked a whole series of questions about mental health. Respectfully, I will say that. With respect to mental health, they asked, I thought, all the right questions as far as that went. But the question I would have asked is, you had teammates willing to go out and visit you. Why didn't you accept that? And is it true that you did not return calls from Doc Rivers? Those are probably the two things that I would examine the most in the press conference yesterday. Everything else, I thought they asked at least 5 questions about and I'll let you hear it. One person even said, what about the people that say you're faking it? And Ben's response to that was, hey, they don't know me. I can't get mad at them because they don't know me. They don't know the real situation. I know there's going to be a lot of speculation about what it was, and I'm not going to throw out different either disorders or whatever it might be. Say, hey, Ben, was it this? I'm not going to highlight things in his personal life that it could be because I don't want to lead to that speculation. I don't want to fuel that fire. But if this doesn't pass your smell test, it's okay because none of it makes sense. And if you're Clutch Sports, if you're even Ben Simmons, and we all know he's following this stuff as it's being said, and when he was asked point blank also about all the stuff that was said about him, is there anything that you want to refute? Is there anything you want to shoot down? And he goes, man, we don't have enough time. All right, well, how about one? Why wait with this piece of news that would be ultimately forgiven and not questioned? Would there be a small contingent that would question it? Sure. There was a small contingent that questioned Brandon Brooks and questioned Lane Johnson. But still, the vast majority of people, especially here in this city that have already gone through it with 2-star athletes, would go, oh, he's got personal stuff going on? Okay. Hey, man, you do you. You come back when you're ready. If that was the lead story, if that was leaked or put out there that he's got something going on, I guarantee 90% of the population would be, hey, Ben, hey, man, you're a human being. You do you. Personal stuff, hey, man, you do you. But instead, everything that was inflammatory was leaked out. If you're Clutch Sports, if you're Ben Simmons, and you have the reach that a Ben Simmons does or Clutch Sports, a Rich Paul has, why is that the last story to come out? It makes no sense. We will get to the rest of the press conference from Ben Simmons yesterday. We'll let you hear some of the stuff that he had to say. We'll let you pull your own judgments and all that. But first, I just want to break things up a little bit here. Like, are you feeling down today? Are you feeling like you need a little pick-me-up? Do you need a little motivation? I'm just curious, because sometimes people need a little motivation in life. You know what I'm saying? So who better to hear from right now than the key motivator, the principal owner of the 1098 76ers, Josh Harris, ladies and gentlemen, to get you going. Here we go. Let's put a little quarter in the machine, folks. Let's party.
This is going to be awesome. But now let's do this thing.
Yeah! Yeah, one more time.
It's going to be awesome. But now let's do this thing.
Yeah! Attack the day, folks. Attack the day. I do love when the owners speak. I do. I enjoy it. I find joy in it. It's just like, all right. Well, you own everything here, so you can do what you want. You're sitting in a practice facility that you built in lovely Camden. You do you. Just, you know what? Just, I know some. It's it's a Wednesday. It's a hump day.
This is going to be awesome. But now let's do this thing.
I don't know why I get so much joy. All right, let's get to Ben. I have a whole bunch of stuff here. I don't want to hit everything here. You guys saw it. You guys, as I broke something, you guys saw it. You guys have read the clips and all that stuff, read the quotes or heard the sound bites and all that. But let's get to number one thing here, where he says it's not about what happened after the Hawks lose.
For me, it was just making sure mentally I was right to get out there and play again. So that's something I've been, dealing with. And it wasn't about the fans or coaches or comments made by anybody. It was just a personal thing for me. That was earlier than, that series or even that season that I was dealing with, and that organization knew that. So it was something that, I continue to deal with, and, I'm getting there and getting to the right place to, get back on the floor.
The organization knew it? The organization knew it. I don't remember Daryl Morey in any of his interviews. I don't remember Joel Embiid in his interview. I don't remember Doc Rivers ever talking about what the organization knew about Ben previous to Game 7 against the Hawks. I don't remember anybody alluding to it. So for me, that's just wild. Daryl Morey spoke yesterday about when Rich Paul came to him and said Ben needs a different situation. He didn't get into it then. As far as I know, this is news to the Sixers that they apparently knew about what Ben Simmons was going through even before last season started. So for me, it can only be one thing. And this is kind of what led me to believe this. Now, I'll get to the point in 1 second, but here he's talking about how the trade had nothing to do with his mental health status.
Yeah, for me, that was never, the mental health has nothing to do with just the trade. It was a bunch of things that I was dealing with as a person in my personal life that I don't really want to go into depth with. But yeah, I'm here now. So, it's a blessing to be, in an organization like this. And, I'm just looking forward to getting back on the floor and building something great here.
More on leaving Philadelphia.
I think, I just wasn't in the place there to do that. And a lot of things had happened over that summer to where I didn't feel like I was getting that help. But it is what it is. I don't have wasn't a personal thing towards, any player or coach or, owners or anything like that. It was about myself, getting to a place where, I need to be.
He always sidesteps the front office, which brings me to my biggest point here. It's Daryl Morey. There's had to be some. And if you think about Daryl Morey, if you think about Ben Simmons, if you think about what happened, it's the fact that Daryl Morey came in before last year and wanted to trade for James Harden. That's what it was. I'm not saying that's what caused any mental health issue for Ben Simmons, but I'm saying if there was disdain between him and the organization, it was that Daryl Morey came in and immediately wanted to trade for James Harden without question. I'm not saying that's what caused Ben Simmons any mental health anguish or anything like that. I'm just saying that if there was a rift between the front office and Ben Simmons, that's where it was. It's the only thing that really explains Ben Simmons saying it was before the series and it was even before the season that something actually happened. And here he is listing a couple of the people that he spoke to, including two names that he leaves out, that one is highlighted, the other is not. But here is Ben Simmons talking about when he was asked by the angel sent from the heavens to talk to us about basketball, Malika Andrews, about his conversations on the way out of Philadelphia.
I think the communication. I spoke to Elton. I spoke to Josh Harris. They called me. I spoke to Doc Rivers. And I spoke to Tobias. There was a couple other places I spoke to about it. And, they were happy, for me to just be in a different situation and, for me to get back on the floor eventually. So overall, I think, they supported me well enough through this.
Did you speak with Joel?
No, I did not.
So, all right, let's go over this. Elton Brand, Josh Harris, okay, that's the owner and the GM. And then he spoke to Tobias Harris. Did not speak to Joel. Never mentioned Daryl Morey. Leads you to believe that there's a little bit of a rift there, no? And look, we already knew well before anything happened like this between Ben and Joel Embiid, we already knew those guys weren't the best of friends. Like, we've talked about that over the years, how they're not the best of friends. They're not going to movies together. They're not playing Call of Duty together. They're not, bosom buddies, if you will. And that's fine as long as they play well on the court. And Ben and Joel, when they're on the court together, played pretty damn well. We've highlighted the numbers before, 63% winning percentage. That's pretty damn good. But for whatever reason, it wouldn't happen here. And I see one person batters about highlighting the things that happened in the offseason with his sister and his brother. Yeah, so what does that have to do with the Sixers? That's my only question there. What does that have to do with the Sixers? And I know people have rolled that out before, but what does that have to do with the Sixers? Why that happening over here? Why is that affecting what's happening over here? Like, I understand how that would affect mental health, and even more reason to come to the forefront and say, I got a lot going on in my personal life. I can't really get into it, but I just got a lot going on in my personal life. Basketball's taking a back seat. And it's not just basketball taking a back seat. It's basketball taking a back seat and the Sixers taking a back seat. It doesn't make sense. I can understand mental health issues regarding what happened in the offseason with his sister and his half-brother and all that, but I can't put together how that affects the Sixers and his relationship to the Sixers. That doesn't make any damn sense to me. He does go on to say that he wished that the Sixers reached out to him. He didn't feel like the Sixers had the support there for him that he wanted or he was expecting. I don't know what more support you could want than the team literally, once they really caught wind of things hitting the fan with you, them wanting to fly out to meet you on your turf, go to see you to make sure everything's okay. And Doc Rivers texting, calling, and all that. And no, I'm ignoring it. No, thanks. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But somehow it's the Sixers' fault in all of this. Okay. I'll give him credit for this. He said it wasn't the fans' fault. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. Because we already knew that, but saying that publicly, it does help a little bit. Appreciate that. This is last thing I want you guys to hear from this. This has to do with people saying that what Ben is going through isn't real, and here's how Ben responded.
That this was not real. This is fake. These are lies, whatever. Do you take offense to that?
No, because I can't tell somebody else how they feel, right? I can't tell somebody, you need to do this or that, because I don't know how they feel. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know how they're processing things. So I can't do that, but I can't also put somebody else, down for having those comments. I'm just not that person, I'm never going to put my teammates down, my coaches or anything like that. So it's just, it is what it is.
I'll never understand it. I'm not trying to diagnose Ben Simmons. This is the avenue he went. I just will never understand the connection between anything going on with a mental health issue and the 76ers themselves. Like, that's something that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, I couldn't picture other situations, and yes, every situation is different. Its own, case by case basis. But I couldn't imagine Brandon Brooks coming back or Lane Johnson coming back and saying, "Hey, it's got nothing to do with my mental health, but I can't be here in Philadelphia anymore. I can't play for the Eagles anymore." Like, it just doesn't make sense. So that's hopefully the last we talk about Ben until March 10th. He did say he hopes to be ready by March 10th. He's not going to start playing for the Nets immediately. He will be there on the bench. He looks forward to that offense being scary. And he's been on the other side of the rivalry, obviously, here in Philadelphia, and he hopes that that's something that, of course, grows. He did give Jared Dudley a shout-out yesterday. Okay. But hopefully that's the last we speak about Ben. Now, here's the other thing. When it comes to basketball, hey, remember that game? When it comes to basketball, I know a lot of people are debating who won the trade and all that. The Sixers, bottom line for this is, if the Sixers face the Nets in the playoffs, and even if they don't, the Sixers just better advance farther than the Nets in the playoffs. Like that for me, in year one of this experiment here with Harden and Embiid, that for me, that will be enough of a step forward. Whether they get the Nets in the first round, the second round, whatever it might be, just please, for the love of all holy things, just please advance past the Nets. Do better than the Nets this season. That's all. That's like my main ask. Be better than them, please. And we'll see if that actually happens. Now, the other thing in all this is that, when Ben does play the Sixers, and I know that I've made this point before, but when he does play against the Sixers, it's going to be amped up, motivated Ben Simmons. It's going to be the guy that came out after they botched game 1 to the Nets in that playoff series that he referenced by facing Jared Dudley. It's going to be the next version of the Ben Simmons, the next day, where he's pissed off, he's amped up, he wants to prove everybody wrong, and he's aggressive, he's attacking the rim, he's getting triple doubles, all that stuff. That's going to be what we're going to see from Ben Simmons. Then it's also going to be the same version of Ben Simmons that we saw play against the Nets and James Harden in the first game after the trade rumor for James Harden. So for me, that's going to be unfortunate. Ben's going to play really well. Probably have a 20-point game, probably have a triple-double. But for me, that's going to be a lot of salt in the open wound for people around the country to go, see, so Philadelphia lost the trade. Look how great Ben Simmons is. Yes, for that one game where he's super-duper motivated. All right, now, let me transition here. But before I transition out of this, I just want to make sure you guys are still motivated. You still motivated?
It's going to be awesome. But now, let's do this thing.
There we go. When I say let's do this thing, you know what I'm referring to? I'm referring to Destination Retirement, destinationretirement.com. Mike Seibert, RICP, is a financial advisor for Eagles fans and Sixers fans only. His firm, Destination Retirement, LLC, is a full-service planning firm and an affiliate of 1847 Financial. Let him create a written financial plan for your accumulation years as well as your distribution years, which are terms I only recently learned from my friend Mike Seibert. With pensions few and far between, you're on your own when you retire with only a 401k or IRA. So let Mike help you turn your assets into an efficient income stream that you can't outlive. Mike Seibert is here to put your plan in place and help you retire, or if you're already in retirement, a plan that helps you alleviate people's biggest fear, running out of money. Come on, Eagles fans. Come on, Sixers fans. With stock market volatility and taxes probably going up, you need someone as your financial head coach with the experience to tackle these obstacles. With over 30 years of experience in the financial game, Mike Seibert is a seasoned veteran who is committed to helping Eagles fans get to and through retirement. You can reach Mike at 484-275-6035. That's 484-275-6035, or visit destinationretirement.com. Click on Find Out at the top of the page and fill out the questionnaire to see how prepared you are for retirement. Mike will get back to you and talk about how he can help. And as always, go Birds. How about my friend Steven Singer at Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there in Philadelphia, the other corner of 8th and Walnut. Every day, the perfect price. People complain all the time. Oh, I got to buy a diamond ring. I got to buy something nice for my missus, my man, whatever it might be. Steven makes it so easy, so incredibly easy. And he doesn't take advantage of his customers. You get treated every single day to the perfect price. So when you walk in there, you know you're not getting gouged. You know you're getting taken care of every single day with the perfect price. That's what Steven Singer has to offer. And if you are looking to get engaged, his Ready for Love diamond engagement rings are standing by at the ready. So it's not just a clever name. A real jewelry expert will walk you through all their inventory as well, and you'll see the most beautiful, sparkling, dazzling diamonds that you can see. Only at Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Jewelers Row. IHateStevenSinger.com. And always remember, IHateStevenSinger.com provides fast and free shipping. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. This locker room report that we've been doing so far throughout the show, we'll give you James Harden as well, has been brought to you by the great people of Rothman Orthopaedics, who normally sponsor our guest line. And today they're sponsoring our locker room report. Remember the old you who didn't have to put up with a fickle knee, finicky hip, or a shoulder that no longer does what a shoulder should do? The Rothman approach to orthopedics is here to get you back to being you, back to running, walking, working, and playing, back to living your life the way you want. With same-day appointments available, you can start today at RothmanOrtho.com. That's RothmanOrtho.com. Rothman Orthopaedics, the official orthopedic partner of your Sixers, Eagles, and Phillies. That's RothmanOrtho.com. How about the amazing people of WinView, the only game where fans can take on other fans and end the debate once and for all? Who is the biggest sports fan? If you have those friends and family members who think they know everything about sports, play them in a WinView contest and see if they can walk the walk as well as they talk the talk. Want to break up the monotony of family dinners and get-togethers? Play a little quarter of basketball. See what happens there. Make a prediction on Joel Embiid. See what happens there. And you can do that with the WinView app. Download the WinView app right now. It's not a sports book. It's not daily fantasy. It's a social gaming app where fans can win real money prizes on making predictions of the games that they love so much. So make sure you download the WinView app right now. All right, now let's get to we got a couple other sponsors we're going to hit a little bit later in the show, but let's get to this, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty amazing. James Harden, I thought, was fantastic yesterday. I thought he was honest yesterday. And if you heard the press conference in its entirety, it wasn't just James Harden talking about how Philadelphia was his first choice. It was how Daryl Morey was also talking about a possible 3-team trade originally. And what I couldn't figure out was whether or not originally, as Daryl Morey said, did originally mean when James Harden was leaving Houston, or did originally mean this time around when he talked to Sean Marks, GM of the Brooklyn Nets? That's what I couldn't figure out. That was ambiguous to me. I couldn't. It was a little interesting the way it was phrased yesterday. But without further ado, this is James Harden talking about coming to Philadelphia and how Philadelphia was the number one place that he wanted to go to since his Houston days. Here he is talking about that. I swear. Here he is.
Originally, when I was going through everything I was going through, in Houston, Philly was my first choice. It just didn't happen. So, but just detailed, I don't really want to get into, the Brooklyn situation. I just knew, for a very long time this was a perfect fit. And obviously you got a big man, the best big man in the league in Joel. And then obviously the coaching, just from top to bottom, it made sense. And I'm just happy and blessed that I'm here. And as Doc and everybody knows and everybody wants is to win and be the last team standing. So I'm excited for the opportunity.
The things he said about Doc Rivers yesterday were off the charts. And we had heard, even going into last year, that James Harden wanted to be in Philadelphia more so than he wanted to be in Brooklyn. It just didn't work out that way. As he pointed out in his press conference yesterday, yes, players have a lot of power. They don't have all the power in terms of choosing where they're going next. They basically present a list, 1, 2, and 3, and Brooklyn was probably 2 or 3 on that list, where Sixers were number 1, just couldn't make it happen. Now, the other thing he said was Doc Rivers. And he said Doc Rivers is one of the greatest coaches ever in basketball. Why wouldn't he want to be led by that? So, coming in, James Harden has a tremendous amount of respect for Doc Rivers. And I also thought this was interesting. For a guy who's been an MVP, a guy who's been a 3-time scoring champion in the NBA, a many-time All-Star, he acknowledged that at this point in his career, 32 years old, there's still a lot to learn. Why wouldn't he want to learn from Doc Rivers? And regardless if you like Doc Rivers or not, if you have a player coming in with that attitude, with that mindset of, this is the place I've always wanted to be anyway, and now I get to play for one of the best coaches ever, a guy I can learn from, that's the exact mindset you want a player to have, regardless if they're a $35 to $40 million a year player, regardless if you're about to sign them to a longer-term deal, regardless of how old they are or how accomplished they are in the NBA. That's the attitude and mindset you want a player to have that's about to make a pretty chunk of change off your dime here in Philadelphia. So I love that. Now, the other thing he got into was working with Joel Embiid and how he sees that working out.
We're both at a high level to where we'll figure it out. You know, Joel does everything on the floor. You know, so and we got guys on our team that are very smart. We communicate, and we have coaching that's gonna put us in positions to be successful. Listen here, they have something great already going on. I'm just here to contribute, and I know that I can do that very well. So on the court, when you got high-level skill guys that knows the game and all they want to do is win, we'll figure it out.
Poetry, absolute poetry. I look forward to seeing those two figure it out on the floor, obviously. The other thing he got into was Joel Embiid. And if he caught this yesterday, I don't know if he says it here in this cut, but he talked about Joel Embiid as the MVP. Casually. Just kind of threw that in like it's common knowledge throughout the league. Love that. Here he is talking about JoJo a little bit more.
I think we complement each other. You know, obviously the whole world knows how great Joel's been playing. Not just scoring the basketball, but rebounding. He got a triple-double last game. Just like his presence alone is unbelievable. And I feel like I'm the same way as far as, you know, making my teammates better and doing different things that impact the game at the highest level. And then we have a great core of guys that can help with that. So, I mean, I wish I was playing tonight.
Boy, do I wish you were playing last night. But we will not talk about that game. We will not talk about that game. The game that shall not be mentioned. I promise you that. Oh, God, it's back! Who keeps putting this up? Ah! Box score, man. Nobody needs this. Not one soul. How the hell do you turn the ball over 7 times? Ah. How do you get beat in points in the paint when you have Joel Embiid? Oh, good Lord. Largest lead, 27. In the first half. But we're not talking about it. We're not talking about it. Somewhere, Doc Rivers, Daryl Morey, Josh Harris.
This is going to be awesome. But now let's do this thing.
They're in a field with all the game footage, and they're beating the crap out of a computer, cell phone, digital camera, whatever it is. They're throwing it in the Delaware. They're throwing it in the Delaware River. Is what's happening. I was going to say Schuylkill, but it really doesn't lend itself to Camden. So anyway, so that's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. Last thing from James Harden. Here he is yesterday when he was asked about a championship. This is a great question from Jamie Apodi of 6ABC, where James Harden was asked about the potential in all of this with Joel Embiid and himself and the guys that are surrounding them on this team. Here is the question when the word championship was being referenced so much. Here's Jamie Apodi's question as well as James Harden's answer.
We've heard the word championship being thrown around here for the last half hour. Pairing you and Joel, you know, do you see that being possible? I'm sure you see that being possible this year.
Hell
what will
yeah.
it take to make it happen? Was that a hell yeah?
Hell yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. Obviously, it just doesn't happen overnight. But I think just here being around guys and, you know, they have the right mindset. Obviously, it's coming from the coaching staff. But after the break, man, it's go time. You know, so as much as, you know, I can incorporate and figure things out fast, which, you know, it won't, you know, be long. The better things will be. But I mean, it shouldn't take long at all. Like I pretty much can fit anywhere.
You love it. You absolutely love it. You know, how dare I? The money quote from yesterday. Oh my goodness, I didn't even play it. What an idiot. But let me just focus on that for a second. The confidence level that's there. Folks, let's just play this hypothetical for 1 second. And it's not even a hypothetical, but let me pose it as one. Let's just imagine for a second that you sat through your favorite basketball team being terrible on purpose. Not for 1 year. They didn't tank. They started a process. That's why when people talk about, hey, did the process work? It worked if it was a tank job, but it wasn't a tank job. It was the process. Many teams have been terrible for a year to try to get the number 1 pick, try to tank for somebody. That's a tank job. The Sixers had a whole process involved, which is a series of tanking, which is the biggest difference that people just kind of gloss over. But that's the biggest difference. But let's imagine that you go through a whole process of 4 years of god-awful basketball, and the crown jewel of all that still didn't play for the first 2 years of his professional career because of injuries in Joel Embiid. Let's just think about this for a second. And you watch seasons that include, what, a 17-win season, an 18-win season, a 10-win season. Then you get a little taste of a 28-win season. Huh? It was terrible. And then finally, several years later, you have the opportunity to cash in the last chip of that process and Ben Simmons for James Harden, and you cash that in. And then James Harden comes to Philadelphia and tells you can win a championship here, tells you he's easily coached, tells you he wants to learn from the coach, tells you he can't wait to play with Joel Embiid, says all the right things. That's exactly what you want to hear, what you just heard from James Harden. That he can play with Joel Embiid, that he can be coached, that he loves Philadelphia. Everything he said yesterday, it was like the perfect song. Every note hit. That was James Harden yesterday at his press conference. Said everything right. Now it's a matter of actually making it work on the court. And when he's asked about, can you make this work with Joel Embiid? He's like, what, are you kidding me? Absolutely. You know, championship conversation that we're all throwing around here. Does that actually work? Can you actually do that? Hell yeah. Yeah, hell yeah to that. Need I say it one more time, ladies and gentlemen?
This is going to be awesome. But now let's do this thing.
I don't know why that cracks me up so damn much. All right, here's the money quote from yesterday, fans. Just revel in this for a second.
Fans is probably the best fans in the NBA. You know, a lot of teams say that, a lot of organizations say that, you know, a lot of fan bases say that, but like ride or die, like probably the best fans in the NBA. And I'm just happy that they're on my side and I'm not getting booed as the opposing team. But I'm excited, man. Just the love, the atmosphere, just, you know, going to that arena, it's going to be something special.
Ride or die, y'all. Ride or die. I say hot damn. If you went through what we went through as a fan base, that's exactly the way you want a guy talking coming to Philadelphia. An MVP, a guy who hasn't won a championship, a guy that's 3 times scored champion, blah, 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 blah. But he wants to win. And he wants to do it here in Philadelphia. Philly was his first choice. Revel. Bask in it. Enjoy it. Feels so good. Let me tell you about PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's phlsportsnation.com. Follow all the big stories with phlsportsnation.com. All right, let's get into our chat check, ladies and gentlemen, see what the good people of Philadelphia have to say. Kevin, good morning. Mally, good morning. Mark, please do me a favor. I ask you. Mally, I know you hit me up on Twitter yesterday. We will only refer to it as the game that shall not be mentioned. As I've told you, we're not talking about the game. There's no game. Not a game. Not a game. Not a game. Talking about press conferences, man. Press conferences. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Mally. Good morning, Cody. Buddy T-Mac, loving the show. Loving the show title. Alliteration. Alliteration's the key to everything as far as I'm concerned. What's going on, Cody? Buddy Vince, what's popping, man? April, hello. Kevin, hello again. Dan, good morning. Scheduled loss last night. I can't stand Ben Simmons, just FYI. Dan, I couldn't agree more. PJ's using the Twitter show account as he should be. Getting blown up by 48 is one heck of a scheduled loss. No, I'm not talking about the game. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Mullet. Mullet's back. What's going on, Mullet? 2 days in a row. Nice to have you. Beta Ben couldn't take Alpha Embiid, period. All signs point to yes. All signs point to yes. Jintis. What's up, buddy? D. Lynam and Howard Eskin had to be at the Harden press conference, so they missed the Ben one. Their questions would have been interesting. I agree. Eskin's questions, interesting. Yes. I will say this about Howard. I find it interesting. He was always fighting with Spike, obviously his son, about the process and worth it, not worth it. This is stupid. Hinkie's an idiot. This is great. Hinkie's brilliant. Like, that was the conversation, even on and off the air. And Howard was always talking about how stupid the process was, and you got to win now. Well, the Sixers are trying to win now. And Howard's like, where are your first round picks? Like, what? It was hilarious. Gentis, I mean, his questions didn't need answers because they're always so pointless. Boy, oh boy. Here's the batter's about. They knew what he was going through with his sister's accusations of his brother, which was well before the playoffs. You're right. No, not disagreeing at all. I mean, that's statement of fact. So for me, how is that tied into the Sixers? If you have something going on in your personal life that you can't wrap your head around, how is that tied to the Sixers? That's what I don't understand. More effectively told him to look for property in Houston. Did I say that right? Yeah, effectively. Could not stand Joel and Maury. It was an ugly divorce. Yep. Batter's about not. He's absolutely human. What will be his excuse when it's Nets Sixers? In terms of not playing, I don't know. Kaiser, what's going on? I like a Kaiser. What's going on there, Kaiser? Oh, Kaiser Soze. I see what you're doing there. I think Clutch told Ben that Maury was going to try to get Harden and he would be moved, and he gave up after the All-Star break to keep his accolades and said F you to the team. Probably. But again, that's at the All-Star break. So that is of last year. That was already being discussed. And by the way, I was the guy that said, oh, I'd trade for James Harden. Before last year, I said I would do that deal right now. I'm not, like, Ben might develop into something, and I don't want to give up on that. But if you're giving me James Harden right now, deuces, Ben. Oh, well, by the way, let me take a break from the chat for just 1 second. One more thing that James Harden said yesterday. I don't have a cut of it, but I just want to say one thing he said yesterday that was great was he was asked about the supporting cast. And he said Tobias Harris can get you 20 a night. And I'm like, if Joel Embiid's getting you 30 and James Harden is maybe getting you like 25 and Toby's getting you 20, holy pots and pans, that's a hell of an offense. I'd like to see it. Oh, he also just gushed about Tyrese Maxey as one would. And did anybody else catch Daryl Morey saying Tybal instead of Thybal? A guy I know from my days at Temple University, David. What's up, David? He pointed out that in French, the H is often silent. And I didn't take French in high school because I took a language that matters, Spanish. And everyone who took French was either French. Nobody who leaves France. It was either French or wanted to impress a girl. That was why you took French. My wife took French. I'm like, why? What a waste of time. And now our daughter goes to like a Spanish school, which is great. The list, the whole thing with the Ben Simmons thing and the James Harden thing, talking about how I don't know, I lost my train of thought. Oh, Thybal. So my buddy Dave told me that the H in French is often silent. I've only known him as Thybal. I've talked to the guy. I've referred to him as Thybal. No correction. Not like Michael Franco. That was like, it's Franco, not Franco. I'm like, okay, copy that. Anyway, that's that. I'm sorry, I have Family Guy brain. I'm all over the damn place. Oh, that's where I left off. Oh, Luigi. What's up, Luigi? Nice to have you. Over under on timeline when KD turns on Ben. Soon. Judge the trade till the end of the season. All right, Gentis, easy enough. April, hello again. Mally, after the first big game, word BS doesn't shoot. I mean, the greatest basketball player ever, Sass, says the Nets won the trade. Sure. Stephen A. Smith, I got you. Gentis, he was booed and told the fans to stay on that side after game one loss. Yeah, but like we had good moments after that. Kaiser Soze, karma on Ben heels. Was Ben Simmons the clown Lenny Dykstra was searching for his dentures in the dumpster? Any Dykstra reference makes me laugh. Now Ben is an ambassador for mental health for the NBA. What a spit in the face of people who really suffer. Look, I've told you guys my stance on mental health. You have my support. As someone who went through it at a young age, there's a lot of things that I don't understand about other aspects of mental health, but I do know that even people that are going through mental health, they couldn't. It's complicated. They know they're going through it. They know they shouldn't in some cases, but they still do it because they just can't help it. And that's what I can identify with. Like when I was going through OCD, and I still have, especially with pandemic, that came back a little bit. But like, I know what I'm doing is me to me, not to anybody else. Me to me, this is stupid. Why do I have to do this in sets? Why do I have to, like, if I hit my elbow on something, do I have to hit my other elbow and then hit the previous elbow, like the original elbow? It doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't make sense, but I have to do it. So like, if you're looking for a justification in that, I can't give one. But for people that are going through it, that see Ben as not exactly being forthright with this, I understand why you'd be upset. I'm upset about it. But then there's also people that are saying, Ben says he's going through mental health issues, so he's going through mental health issues. How dare you question anybody? If you followed the story the entire time, there's questions. It doesn't add up. So I don't think anyone is looking to shame anybody for going through mental health issues. People have questions about this particular case. As I pointed out earlier, funny, this is the Nets fan saying the same about Ben. Why are we calling Harden a loser? You know, somebody came, I don't want to say they came at me on the comments after the show, but they were like, when I was saying yesterday, pull a Ron Swanson, and when somebody approaches you about Ben Simmons and tries to tell you as a Sixers fan how you should be, and they're not a Sixers fan and they haven't lived this story for as long as we have and haven't been supportive and been there for Ben Simmons throughout his career, by the way, again, I'll reference the Guangzhou Long Lions from China. But if somebody wants to tell you something about Ben Simmons, simply look at them and go, I know more than you, and move on with your life. And somebody said, well, we know more about James Harden than you do. Was that the subject? Was that what we were talking about? I wouldn't dare go to another fan base. Like, do you think I would go to the Detroit Lions right now and tell them how to be a fan? I ain't going to do that. Like, that's their battle. That's a story and a team that they have lived with for their entire lives. Do you think I'm going to tell them, here's what your problem is? Like, no. What are you, nuts? Absolutely not. Nets fans are all hipsters. Do Nets fans even know that they have a team? Oh, Eddie Maurer has an answer for us. Eddie, it is Thibault. It was clarified yesterday after the presser. Oh, it was. Oh, interesting. Okay. I've told you guys before, with them uncommon names like Thibault, Farzetta, for instance, there's different pronunciations when you get to the actual country of origin. Like in Italy, they always, if they look at my passport, they'll be like a macro facetta. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what was that? Facetta. You're saying Farzetta? Facetta. Was that an L or an S in there? What's that? Like they put a little stank on it. And that's the way they roll. That's the way they roll. If you do, by the way, YouTube, Farzetta, and Maida, Maida, which is the town my family's from, this comedic sketch comes up. Two of them, actually. And I don't speak fluent Italian by any means, so I don't know what the hell they're talking about. But it's just like some guy who I think dresses as a chef, and it's like a comedy thing, and people are laughing. And I'm just like, are these like my relatives? As far as I know, I got like one very distant cousin still in that town, and that's all I got. But anyway, back to Thibault. So there you go. Here you go. April's talking about how the brain works in terms of like how it works for her with anxiety. Your logic brain knows that it's wrong, but your anxiety brain says you have to do it anyway. I would catch myself doing it and be like, what the hell am I doing? And I was in 5th grade. I was a little kid, man. was crazy. It was in the metaphorical sense, not the literal sense. Anyway, thanks everyone that participated in the chat. You guys are awesome as per usual. Much obliged. Are you guys ready? Let's get into our morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. Let me tell you about this, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Millsap. We've all been there and seen press conferences like it was Tobias Harris fielding questions when he came here and not Boban Marjanovic. When Jimmy Butler came here, he was answering questions and not whoever else it was. I can't remember. But it was Jimmy Butler answering questions. James Harden gets brought here. He gets asked questions, not Paul Millsap. And I originally did the math wrong when I tweeted about this yesterday. I originally did the math wrong where I said that it was like 7 minutes into the press conference. It was 15 minutes into the press conference where it's Josh Harris. And in case you didn't see what Josh Harris said.
This is going to be awesome. But now let's do this thing.
Oh, Eddie, you YouTube that every night before you go to bed? Makes you laugh? Glad he's talking about, I think he's talking about my, the Farzetta sketch in Maida, Calabria, Italy. Anyway, so that's what you got there. Josh Harris spoke, Daryl Morey, Doc Rivers, James Harden got asked all the questions. 15 minutes into the press conference, Paul Millsap finally got asked a question and had the greatest line of yesterday's press conference as far as I'm concerned. Here it is.
You've played for some really good teams and you've played for some really good coaches. But what excites you about this team and this coach?
Yeah, first off, appreciate it. It was getting a little weird up here, but the culture, just coming into practice, yesterday, and seeing the joy on the guys' face and seeing how together everybody is and seeing the energy in the building. That's what I love.
It's getting a little weird up here. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for asking me a question. I'm not James Harden. You know what's funny? I was just going back because, like I told you before, I remember when Paul Millsap was like, "Oh, the Sixers should sign Paul Millsap," and it was like, "What the hell is Paul Millsap going to do?" But anyway, Paul Millsap was a member of that 60-win Hawks team from 2014, 2015. I want to say he was a starting five member. Him and Al Horford were the big men for that team. Nobody on that team averaged over 17 points. Isn't that wild? That was Kyle Korver. It was Al Horford. It was Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap led the team in scoring, actually. A 29-year-old Paul Millsap led the team in scoring. Pretty awesome. And then I just saw this story, and I just thought it was wild. Did you see this story about the priest in Arizona who had 20 years worth of baptisms stricken from the record? Now, if you're not a Gentile like myself, and you don't know what a baptism is, that's where you're born, and then you get baptized to be forgiven for what Adam and Eve did, the whole eating the fruit thing. Original sin is how we Gentiles refer to it. So this priest, all his baptisms were wiped away for 20 years because he said the word "we" instead of "I," when he was supposed to say, "I baptize you in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost." Like, he said "we" instead of "I," which means he took the Christ portion out of it, because it can't be "we" doing it when it's "I." He's supposed to be speaking as Christ. So what the church decided in Arizona was, if you were baptized by this guy, and he's resigned as a priest because of it, if you were baptized by this guy, you were never baptized. So, like, the chain of events that then happens, because, like, people that get baptized, they get married in the church, and, like, all this other stuff happens. They get confirmed, which, by the way, I was thinking about it. I was like, well, if you got confirmed after you were baptized, does it even matter? Like, isn't that why you have confirmation? Isn't that why that's called confirmation? For those that don't know, non-Gentiles, confirmation is like our bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. It's like where we're like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll agree with what my parents did for me when I was a baby, when they baptized me. I confirm that this is how I feel about everything. Be sealed with the gift of the Holy Spirit. Like that whole thing. Get a sponsor, like your favorite uncle is your sponsor, or your favorite aunt. It's pretty great. And then, so they're saying, never happened. And I'm like, you know what? Look at the Catholic Church. There's a lot of other things going on there. And they want to go, oh, but this guy with the baptisms, didn't happen. Well, I was confirmed. You're never baptized. What the hell? I mean, heck. I mean, darn it. Anyway, so that happened in Arizona. I saw that story and I was just like, for all my fellow Gentiles, I don't know if they're going to be appreciative of this one, but here it is anyway. There we go. That was our Morning Rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, skymotorcars.com. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to leave you with this. As we examine things throughout the day, if you need that extra pick-me-up, if you need that extra added motivation, just remember, Josh Harris is here to motivate you.
This is going to be awesome. But now let's do this thing.
A guy named Sean Gillespie is chiming in on the how God works in technicalities. All forgiving. But let's talk about pronouns for a second. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. Much appreciated. Jim Hyder produced the program, did a phenomenal job as per usual. My name is Marc Farzy. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. It's the Farzy Show, presented by Destination Retirement, destinationretirement.com from the Steven Singer Studios. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. See ya.